Welcome back to Newsday. The winner of the 2022 Nlng Prize for Literature will later today emerge here in Lagos in a ceremony tagged Torching the Stars. One of the shortlisted candidates and author of Memories and The Call of Water, Swedi Agema, now joins us. Great to have you on Newsday. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
My absolute pleasure to be here.
Well, the Nigerian Prize for Literature, a prestigious award worth over $100,000. Well, tell us, how does it feel to be shortlisted for the prize?
It's really great to be shortlisted for the prize, but I think it's more special to have my friends, my brothers, Romeo and Sadiq, on the award. I did not even think I would be on the long list. So to be on the list on the one hand, and to have these two people beside me is simply incredible. It's the kind of thing that you do not wake up every year to. So I'm really amazed and I'm really glad.
All right. Well, can you tell us a bit about your writing background, what got you started into it, what your current profession is, and the way you see the reading and writing culture within Nigeria or wherever it is you're based?
Okay. First of all, I've been writing for a very long time. I grew up in a family of writers. That's okay. My elder siblings used to write. And I started writing out of the frustration of them not completing their stories. So they always had this stuff that they would do and then they would stop. So one day I decided, hey, I should be able to do this myself. So I started doing that. And I was fortunate to have my mom buy me books of the Heinemann series. So I started reading that from a very young age. Eventually, I got to school and I used to draw comics. But as you grow older, you find out you don't have enough time to keep drawing your stories. So I got to write those stories instead and do some poetry on the side. And we're here where we are today. I do a lot of things. Yeah, so I'm a publisher. I'm a development consultant, and of course, I'm a writer too. So the reading culture in Nigeria is incredible. Like, people don't have half an idea of how beautiful our reading culture is. The last time you people were talking, you spoke to Sadiq about it, and he mentioned something that most people get to miss. It is not the reading culture that is the problem. The question is, what are people reading? Because if you go to any newsstand, you find several people arguing politics, they are reading the newspapers, people on social media, they are reading things. Check anywhere, Nigerians read, we have so many academics. If you go to the Western world, for instance, you find people who are not that educated as us. So I think we underestimate the power of our education and how much we read in this country.
So does that mean the saying that if you want to hide anything from a Nigerian, put it in a book, does that mean it's a fallacy?
No, I don't think it's a fallacy. The question is, which particular book are you hiding it in? If you hide it in a poetry book, then yes, that might work. But we are trying to see how we can make poetry and other things more enticing so that there will be no book that you can hide anything from us in.
So how do we get more Nigerians to read poetry? How do you think we can encourage that?
There are several ways. We're in an age of golden poetry, where you have Nigerians writing incredible poetry. It's about the accessibility, because there's always been this fear that people come to with poetry. It's like how you don't find somebody going to buy a mathematics textbook because of this fear that it's very difficult. But more and more, you have writers who are putting out work that people can easily engage with. There's also the fact that we have prizes like this prize, the Nigeria Prize for Literature, that raises the stake for people who are writing poetry. So the more you have a reward system, the more people know that, okay, we can go into this and there's going to be a reward for us.
Well said, well said. Well, there's $100,000 on the line. That's quite a bit of money. You don't have to disclose to us exactly what you plan on doing with the money if you win, but we would like to hear more about your shortlisted poem that you submitted. I believe that you have it here with us, Memory and the Call of Waters. You don't have, just a little snippet, just for those who are interested, because when we think of poetry, we think roses are red, violets are blue. It's all this love, fluffy stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's a way that poetry can communicate more of the realities of our current world. And I'm not sure if our listeners or our readers are very adept to the fact that poetry can span a lot of gamuts. And so can you tell us more about Memory and the Call of Waters?
Okay, so Memory and the Call of Waters is basically an exploration of personal and communal histories.
Okay.
When I started writing this book, I was trying to understand several things that were happening to me. It's always very easy to put your feelings and emotions into poetry, as opposed to prose, where sometimes you're dancing around and stuff. So, like you mentioned, all what you mentioned are poems, and they are the ways that we can express poetry. But poetry also has to do with the things we see in our society, which are often underreported. There are several killings that have kept on going on around our country. In Benue, people have seen it so much that at some point they just get tired of reporting it. The floods and stuff that the media might not ordinarily take, or when they just put in journalists. So what I tried to do in this book was to give it a more personal touch. In addition, I tried to put my family into it, bring in my wife, bring in my friends, my people. Interestingly, there's a poem inside here dedicated to Romeo and Sadiq too, who are on the short list.
Well, you have to share your money with them if you win now. I mean, now you really have to.
Oh, well, we'll talk about that when we win the money, if we win the money. But it just goes to say that with this collection, what I tried to do was to put a book that would be accessible to people that would also tell several stories, because many times when stories are told, people either tell the good side and leave the bad side, or tell the bad side and leave the good. But there's room to put something in the middle. There's room for balance and objectivity. So that's what I've tried to do here, and I think it's a book that will resonate with readers.
So apart from just sharing your personal experiences, what other takeaways do you want the readers to get from your poem or from your poetry?
It's everything. Like I said, I'm trying to get us to reflect on our society. I spoke about the killings earlier on. There's also something I got to put in. I got to put in the Japa thing, because many times when we think of the Japa movement, we only think of the positives. People don't get to talk of the depression you have when you're there. And I have to keep referencing them because these are people I'm very close to. Last time I was in New York talking with Romeo, we were talking about how very easily people come to abroad, whether it's Europe, whether it's America. They have very fine dreams, but they don't prepare. So some of the poems here are trying to give people that view that you should take stock of everything, you should prepare, and most importantly, that we should have hope. Because no matter what happens, no matter the despair we see in any facet, there's always hope. And as long as we hold on to this hope, life will always be better.
Hope is definitely something we need to hold on to. And really quickly, I want you to tell us how you found out about the Nlng platform in the first place, and how you were able to access it. Is this something all writers know about? And then also with poetry, does it have to rhyme?
No, let's start with the last part. Poetry definitely does not have to rhyme. Most of the poems we write currently do not really rhyme, even though it's cool to have rhymes, people will dance to it and, stuff. But good poetry must not rhyme always. You can just write anything that appeals to the senses, as long as you use the right metaphors, images, as long as you're true to yourself and tell the story that you want to share, then yes, it's good poetry. Sorry, what's the last question? The other question? That was the problem of taking it from the
How did you find out about the Nlng
Oh, the Nlng prize.
Very briefly, please.
I've known about it for a very long time, but for this year, it's something that we just decided to enter for. We've had clients entering it for several years, and this time I'm just saying, hey, why don't we go in for it? And here we are.
Wow. So all the best of luck, Soedi Agema. I hope the next time you come here, you'll be $100,000 richer.
Amen.
And we'll divide it with your friends.
Definitely.
You can share some with us too. We're not going to be partial,
Why not? We're all family.